The sky over Dayton, Montana, cracked open at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. It didn't sizzle or shimmer like in the movies. It just split quietly, and out of it came a single object, the color of rusted iron, about the size of a city bus. It hovered for a moment, casting a long shadow over the Dayton Pines Orphanage, where 23 children were finishing lunch. Then it dropped. Daniel Archer was in the middle of fixing a busted generator in the maintenance shed when the ground trembled. The deep, metallic thud that followed was like someone had slammed a freight train into the earth. He staggered out of the shed, wiping grease from his hands, and froze. The orphanage was gone, not damaged. Not burning, gone. In its place was a smoldering crater at least 30 feet across. Smoke rose in lazy spirals, catching the light like dark silk. Daniel stared at the hole, eyes wide, lungs refusing to work. "No," he whispered, stumbling forward. "No, no, no." He sprinted toward the rubble, boots crunching over broken glass and twisted metal. The swing set was folded in half. The climbing frame had been hurled into a nearby tree. A teddy bear, singed and missing an eye, lay near the edge of the crater, its stuffing fluttered out like snow. Daniel dropped to his knees at the rim of the blast, his palms pressing into the scorched earth. He couldn't even hear the birds. Just the ringing in his ears and the shallow, rasping sound of his own breath. "Zeke," he shouted. "Zeke, Zoe, Maya." Nothing, his hands trembled. He'd just seen them an hour ago. Zeke had asked him to help fix the broken RC car. Zoe was practicing piano badly. Maya had been drawing a picture of a giraffe with 5 legs and a top hat. He'd told her it was brilliant, and now they were gone. Behind him came the sound of crunching gravel. He turned. Sheriff Roland stood there, one hand on his holster, face pale. "What the hell happened?" Roland asked. Daniel couldn't speak. He just pointed. The sheriff looked at the crater, then up at the sky. "Was it a gas explosion?" Daniel shook his head. "It came from above. I saw it. It wasn't a bomb. It wasn't anything we built." "What do you mean?" Daniel stood, voice hoarse. "That thing." "It dropped from a split in the sky." Roland blinked. "You're saying it came from space?" "I'm saying it wasn't human." They stared at the crater in silence. By nightfall, the military had blocked off the area. Drones buzzed overhead. Black SUVs lined the road. Men in suits and uniforms barked orders and scanned the dirt. Daniel stood at the perimeter, arms crossed, fury slowly replacing shock. A woman in a gray jacket approached him. "Mr. Archer," he nodded. "I'm Special Agent Kendra Ewell, Homeland." He didn't shake her hand. "We've confirmed what you saw," she said. "It wasn't a satellite, it wasn't a missile, it was something else." Daniel's jaw clenched. "So what are you doing about it?" She glanced at the crater. "We're classifying it as a hostile extraterrestrial event." He looked her dead in the eye. "They killed kids." Ewell nodded. "We know." "Then you'd better be planning more than reports and containment zones." She didn't answer. Daniel didn't sleep that night. By dawn, the president addressed the nation. He didn't use the word war, but Daniel heard it in every sentence. Unprovoked attack. Innocent lives lost. Response forthcoming. 2 days later, a second object appeared. This one hovered above Des Moines, Iowa for 6 minutes before disappearing. It didn't attack. It watched. That night, Daniel packed a duffel bag and drove east. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. Washington, D.C. was a mess of roadblocks, satellite trucks, and low-flying helicopters. Daniel parked 12 blocks from the Capitol and walked the rest. He made it as far as the Department of Defense when 2 Marines stopped him. "I'm here to enlist," Daniel said. One of them raised an eyebrow. "You're past the age limit." "I don't care," the guard hesitated. "Why?" "Because they killed my kids." The Marine looked at his partner, then nodded. "Get in line." Within weeks, a new branch of the military was formed, the United Earth Defense Force. It wasn't just Americans. NATO, Japan, Australia, and parts of South America pooled resources. Even Russia signed on, reluctantly. The goal was clear: prepare for the next attack. Daniel was assigned to Joint Tactical Unit Echo, a multinational strike team tasked with counter-intrusion operations. They called it pest control, but everyone knew what it meant. The invaders didn't have a name. The Pentagon called them entities. Others used the burners, after what they'd done in Dayton. Whatever they were, they didn't speak. They didn't negotiate. They destroyed. Daniel trained harder than anyone else. He wasn't the strongest or fastest, but he never stopped moving. He barely spoke. He slept 5 hours a night, ate like a machine, and volunteered for every scenario. Urban insertions, zero-oxygen simulations, anti-gravity drills. When others tapped out, he kept going. "You trying to die, Archer?" His team leader, Staff Sergeant Komarov, asked after a brutal conditioning session. "I'm trying to make it count." Their first mission came 3 months later. A small town outside Quito, Ecuador, went dark. No power, no communication. Satellites picked up a heat signature the size of a football field. Echo team was deployed. Daniel rode in silence during the drop. The VTOL shook slightly as it descended through dense cloud. No one spoke, no one joked. Everyone had seen the crater footage. They landed in a field on the outskirts. Houses were intact, but the streets were dead quiet. No dogs barking, no lights, just wind. Komarov led them in. Eyes up. Weapons live. Daniel held his rifle tight, sweeping every alley, every window. Then he saw movement. "Left side," he hissed. "Second story, green shutters," Komarov signaled. 2 soldiers flanked the house. Daniel kicked the door in. It wasn't a person. The thing inside was 8 feet tall, with skin like cracked ceramic and limbs too thin to be natural. It turned fast. Something in its face, flat and unreadable, registered Daniel's presence. He fired. The first 3 rounds dented its torso. The 4th blew open a cavity near its chest. It didn't bleed. It hissed and lunged. Daniel dove to the side as it crashed into the wall. Komarov unloaded into its back. It twitched, then collapsed. "What the hell are these things?" one of the rookies muttered. Daniel stood over the body. Not smart enough to talk. Smart enough to pick targets. They found 32 civilians in a nearby warehouse, wrapped in some kind of resin. Alive, but unconscious. The medics said their brains were being drained slowly. Echo team burned the nest. Daniel didn't sleep that night either. Over the next 6 months, the attacks increased. New York, Osaka, Cairo, always sudden, always brutal. The aliens never stayed to gloat. They hit and vanished, but humans adapted. Reverse-engineered tech led to new weapons, pulse rifles, magnetic barrier fields, drone scouts. The EDF built orbital platforms, launched patrol fleets. New York got a dome shield. Beijing developed subterranean bunkers. Earth wasn't going quietly, and Daniel kept fighting. He took a shard to the thigh in Jakarta. Spent 3 weeks in a hospital bed, unable to walk without crutches. The doctors said he was lucky. He didn't feel lucky. "You don't have to go back," Komarov said, visiting with a bottle of orange sports drink. Daniel stared at the ceiling. "I do. You'll get yourself killed. I know." The next mission was personal. Intel said the alien ship hovering near the lunar surface was the same class as the one that hit Dayton. Same design. Same energy signature. Echo team was tasked with boarding it. Daniel insisted on going. The commander hesitated, then relented. They launched from Platform Vega, orbiting 22,000 miles above Earth. The capsule shook violently during ascent. Daniel kept his eyes on the hull window, watching the Earth shrink. The alien ship was massive, shaped like a bent spine. It didn't react as they approached. "Any sign of pilots?" Komarov asked. "Negative," the tech replied. "Reading internal movement, though, multiple signatures." They breached through a side hatch, cutting through the alloy with a plasma torch. Inside was dark, cold. The walls pulsed faintly. Daniel led the charge. They found the control chamber near the core. No seats, no controls, just a throne-like structure surrounded by data orbs and a single alien. It turned slowly as if it had been waiting. Daniel raised his rifle. "This the one? No way to know," Komarov said. The alien spoke, not in words. In pulses, vibrations that trembled through the air. A translator unit picked it up. "Your cycle ends. Submission is survival." Daniel stepped forward. "You killed 23 kids in Dayton." The alien regarded him. "Irrelevant. Breeding units." Daniel didn't hesitate. He fired once. The alien dropped, and Daniel whispered, "Not irrelevant to me." They planted charges and left. The alien ship exploded over the dark side of the moon, visible from Earth as a brief flicker. Daniel didn't go home after that. He had nowhere to return to, but he kept fighting. And Earth kept winning, one skirmish at a time. The burn on Daniel's left arm hadn't closed after 2 days. The field dressing had been standard gauze, antiseptic foam, pressure wrap, but something in the alien ship's atmosphere had seeped through the suit's seal. Not acidic, not thermal. Just wrong. The medics at Langley Station were baffled. He sat shirtless on the metal gurney while a nurse scraped the exposed tissue with a sliver of carbon steel. The pain crackled like electricity through his spine. He flinched once. Not again. The nurse didn't apologize. "You're lucky it didn't spread," she said, peeling back the edge of the wound. "Another inch and your nerves would have fused like solder. You'd be twitching like a beetle for the rest of your life." Daniel stared at the ceiling. "Still might, doubtful," she said. "You've got a weird metabolism. Most people lose blood pressure within minutes. Yours just spikes." "Explains the headaches," he muttered. She dabbed the wound with a thick gel that smelled like pine sap and rust. "This'll sting." It did. When she finished, she handed him a pill packet the color of sand and a plastic pouch of rehydration fluid. He pocketed both and slid off the table. "You should rest," she said. Daniel pulled on his jacket. "I won't." Outside the infirmary, the corridor buzzed with movement. Langley Station had been built in orbit, suspended in the L5 region, anchored with tension cables to a pair of counterweights the size of barges. Within its corridors, gravity was a suggestion, not a rule. Daniel walked with practiced weight, pushing off the floors with deliberate steps. He passed a group of engineers arguing over a heat map. One of them, a woman with silver tattoos along her scalp, glanced at him. She whispered something. He ignored it. In the observation deck, the Earth hung below like a marble dipped in oil. No clouds today. Just the curve of continents and the glint of oceans. He leaned against the glass, a voice behind him. "You know you're supposed to be in recovery." He didn't turn. "I'm walking." Komarov stepped beside him, sipping something from a foil pouch. "You always this cooperative with doctors. Only the ones who stab me." "I heard about the burn," Komarov said. "They say it's reacting like a living thing." Not surprised. The walls inside that ship had veins. Komarov exhaled through his nose. "Command thinks they're grown, not built." "Like coral, absorbs energy, adapts over time." Daniel rubbed his arm. "We're fighting a fleet of tumors. Self-replicating tumors with higher math skills." Neither of them spoke for a while. Then Komarov said, "They're launching another boarding op. This time, no explosives. Retrieval only." Daniel frowned. "You want one alive, Command does. They've issued shock harnesses and cortical dampeners, your favorite. They even know how to use them. They're letting us figure that part out." Daniel shook his head. "This is going to get people killed." "Probably," Komarov said. "But if it doesn't, we might learn something." The next day they launched from a tethered shuttle. The target was drifting in low orbit over Madagascar, rotating slowly like a discarded coin. Smaller than the last one. No visible weapons. Scans showed a single life form inside, no movement, no response to hails. The breach was clean. Inside, the air shimmered with static. The walls pulsed faintly, as if breathing. Daniel led the 3-person team through the corridor, rifle raised. Behind him, Kaito from Tokyo and Ramirez from Quito checked their corners. They reached the central chamber. The alien was there, suspended in fluid, limbs splayed in an oval tank. Its body was longer than a man's, but thinner, segmented like an insect. Eyes, 4 of them, glowed faintly beneath the surface. Daniel stepped forward. "Any ratings?" he asked. Kaito scanned. "No movement, no elevated activity, might be dormant." "Let's find out." He approached the tank. The fluid inside rippled as he neared. A low hum filled the chamber. "Not mechanical, almost musical," Ramirez whispered. "It's singing." Daniel unhooked the shock harness. "Or dreaming." He pressed the harness against the tank, the humming stopped, then the alien opened its eyes. All four locked on Daniel. He froze, the fluid began to boil. "Back," he shouted. The tank shattered, steam hissed out. The alien landed on its claws, 6 of them, and unfolded to its full height, taller than expected. Its skin crackled with light, not electricity. Something older, Daniel fired, the rounds hit but didn't penetrate. The alien staggered, then screamed, a vibration more than a sound. Ramirez dropped to his knees, clutching his head. Kaito launched a net drone. It missed. The alien pivoted and swept its claws through the air. The drone shattered. Daniel grabbed the harness again. "Distract it," Ramirez, still bleeding from his nose, tossed a flare. The flash lit the chamber with white heat. For a second the alien flinched. Daniel lunged and clamped the harness to its back. The device activated, the alien convulsed. Its legs folded. Its torso twisted. It let out another sound, this one sharp, fractured. Then it collapsed. Daniel knelt beside it, panting. Kaito looked at him. "You okay?" He stared at the creature. "No." They dragged it back to the shuttle in a containment pod. The pod hissed as it sealed, locking the alien in a stasis field. Ramirez lay on a stretcher, muttering in Spanish, eyes glassy. Kaito kept checking his pulse. Back on Langley, the lab techs descended like vultures. They wheeled the pod into a quarantine bay and locked it behind 6 layers of shielding. Daniel stood outside, watching. A woman in a charcoal jumpsuit stepped beside him. "I'm Dr. Nari Suk," she said. "Xenobiology." Daniel didn't look away. "This thing's different." "Yes," she said. "Its brain doesn't use synapses, it folds space inside itself. Like a Möbius loop." "Can you talk to it?" "We're trying," she said. "But it doesn't think in sequences, it thinks in simultaneity." "Good luck with that." She turned to him. "You made it flinch." "I didn't do anything special." "No," she said, "but you were close. It recognized you." "Most of them don't even acknowledge us. This one did." Daniel walked away. He didn't sleep for the next 30 hours. When he finally collapsed, it was in the crew quarters, still in uniform. A corpsman found him at dawn and checked his vitals. Elevated cortisol, mild dehydration, shallow REM cycles. Standard for combat personnel. They let him rest. By the time he woke, the alien had started moving again, but it didn't attack. Instead, it began drawing. Inside the pod, using its claws, it etched symbols into the steel floor, curves, spirals, fractals. The shapes changed every hour. None repeated. Dr. Suk recorded everything. When Daniel visited the lab again, she waved him over. "You see this?" she asked, pointing to the latest pattern. "Looks like a spider web." "Look closer." He did. The lines converged into a shape, a city, not Earth, not any planet on the maps, floating platforms, towers shaped like bones, and something above it. Watching, Daniel frowned. "You think it's a map? I think it's a warning." He didn't answer. That night, another breach alert went off, but this time it wasn't in orbit, it was in the ocean, South Pacific. Depth, 4,000 meters. Signal, identical to the ship over Madagascar. EDF dispatched a submersible probe. It never came back. They sent another. It returned with footage. Daniel watched it in the control room. The screen flickered. Murky water. Then lights, structures not natural, hexagonal towers rising from the seafloor, at the center a dome. Pulsing, Komarov turned to Daniel. "You ready for a deep dive?" Daniel nodded. "Pack light," Komarov said. "No gravity, no rescue, and if you see anything humming, shoot it first." Daniel didn't smile. He just loaded his gear. The dive launch chamber smelled like cold metal and iodine tablets. Daniel stood inside a ring of technicians adjusting the seals on his pressurized exosuit, the kind designed for crushing depths and low-light combat. He flexed his fingers. The servos responded with a low hiss. The helmet clicked into place with a dull thud. "You'll feel the pressure change once you pass 3,000 meters, said the tech chief, a stocky woman with streaks of blue dye in her buzz cut. "If your ears pop or your vision blurs, hit the red toggle. Do not tough it out." "I don't care how many medals you have." "I don't have any," Daniel said. She paused. "That's worse." The submersible was a tight cylinder with enough room for 3. Daniel, Komarov, and a diver from the Polish Navy named Merk. No one spoke as the vessel detached from Langley's undersea platform and began its descent. The interior lights dimmed as they dropped, replaced by the soft green of the depth gauge. At 3,500 meters, the water outside turned completely black. "Any idea how long we're staying down?" Merk asked. "Until we find out what's building those towers," Komarov said. "Or until something eats us, whichever comes first." The submersible's external lights flickered, then held steady. At 4,000 meters, the dome came into view. It didn't glow, it absorbed. Light disappeared into it like it was being devoured. Structures extended from its base, branching like roots into the seafloor. One of the roots twitched as they passed. "Movement," Merk said. "One of the legs just retracted." Daniel leaned forward. "That's not architecture, it's alive." Komarov activated the brake. "We're not docking directly, Eva from here." The pressure lock cycled with a slow groan. Daniel stepped out first, boots planting into the silt with a muted crunch. The water was thick as syrup, the current barely noticeable. The dome loomed above them, half buried like a fossilized heart. They moved as a triangle, rifles ready. The seabed vibrated underfoot in slow pulses. "Contact," Merk said, voice tight. 2 o'clock. Something scuttled across the dome's surface. Long torso, flat head, 6 barbed limbs. It didn't swim. It crawled upside down across the structure, then paused. Daniel raised his rifle. "Hold." The creature turned slowly as if it had heard, then it dropped. It hit the seafloor with a soft thump and began to walk toward them, legs folding and unfolding like scissors. "Light it up," Komarov said. They fired in unison. Bullets moved slower underwater, but the new rounds were pressurized, designed to retain velocity. The creature jerked violently as the rounds tore through its limbs. It staggered, then collapsed, twitching. Daniel approached the body. "Same build as the ones in orbit. Same skin, too." Komarov scanned the dome. "We're going in." There was no door, just a membrane, translucent, thin, undulating slightly. "You sure that's not a stomach lining?" Merk asked. "Only one way to find out," Komarov said and stepped through. Daniel followed, the membrane sealing around him instantly. Inside, it was dry and silent. The air was thick, heavier than Earth's. The floor wasn't solid, it gave slightly with each step, like walking on hardened muscle. The walls pulsed faintly. Ahead, a central column rose from the floor to the ceiling, wrapped in something like vines. They vibrated constantly, as if humming at a frequency just below hearing. "Why is there air down here?" Merk asked. "Same reason the orbiting ships had gravity," Daniel said. "They're not simulating environments, they're exporting them." "Exporting from where?" "Wherever they're from," Komarov gestured upward. "We're heading to that column." As they reached it, the vines began to retract. A vertical seam opened in the side. Inside was a chamber circular, lined with symbols etched directly into the walls. In the center was a pod. It opened. The thing inside had no armor, no limbs. Just a long, coiled body and a head like a sunflower made of cartilage. It didn't move. It didn't blink, it spoke, not vocally. The chamber shook slightly and their suit comms translated the vibration. "You are the pattern breakers." Daniel stepped forward. "We're the what?" "You do not follow collapse. You resist decay. You alter entropy with will." Komarov glanced at Daniel. "Is it calling us stubborn?" "You are not designed to persist," the voice continued. "Yet you do. This is incorrect." Daniel lowered his rifle. "You destroyed a building full of children. Was that part of your pattern? Non-productive biomass, emotional density, high resistance." "That's not an answer," Daniel said. "It was a test. You passed. You responded with cohesion." Merk let out a short breath. "They nuked an orphanage to see if we'd organize. Your species adjusts behavior faster than expected. You evolve meaning." Komarov shook his head. "We're not interested in being your science project." "Then end the cycle." Daniel stepped closer to the pod. "What cycle?" "Harvest, collapse, renewal. The previous occupants failed, you have not. Yet." A new vibration filled the room, the walls trembled. "What's that?" Merk asked. Another arrival, the voice said. From above, Komarov's eyes narrowed. Reinforcements. No, judgment. Suddenly, the walls retracted, revealing a shaft upward. Light poured in from above, blue and gold, shifting unnaturally. Daniel turned. We're leaving now, they ran. Back through the corridor, through the membrane, into the water. The dome behind them began to shift, not collapse open. Segments peeled back like petals. From inside rose a structure that hadn't been there moments before. It wasn't a ship. It was a beacon, and it was active. As they reached the submersible, the ocean around them began to vibrate, not just sound movement. Thousands of small shapes swimming into view, not attackers. Observers. Daniel climbed into the vessel and sealed the hatch. What do we do about that? Komarov asked as the external cameras showed the beacon pulsing. We shut it down, Daniel said. Command will want to study it. We've seen what happens when we wait. Komarov nodded, then looked at Merk. You brought the charges. 3 kilograms of flex-bonded thermite, Merk said. Enough to weld a glacier in half. They launched the charges from the submersible's external pod, set to detonate at the beacon's base. As they ascended, the countdown began, 70 seconds. The beacon pulsed faster. The shapes in the water scattered. 30 seconds. Pressure's dropping, Merk said. We're climbing too fast. Doesn't matter, Daniel said. We don't need to be comfortable. We just need to be gone. At 10 seconds, the cameras showed the beacon's light turning red. Then white, then nothing. The shockwave never reached them. The depth absorbed it. One moment there was a structure, the next only silt. They broke the surface minutes later. Langley Station was already tracking their signal. 3 hours later, back inside the medbay, Daniel sat with a saline Roman 4 in one arm and a blood oxygen monitor clipped to the other. His suit had compressed the veins in both legs during ascent, and he'd lost sensation in 2 toes. The medic checked his pupils with a flashlight and made him recite the alphabet backwards. I don't think I've ever seen a cleaner decompression profile, she said. You must have trained in low-pressure environments before. I grew up in a basement, Daniel said. Close enough. Komarov entered, holding a datapad. Beacon's gone, no new signals. The dome's collapsed into itself. Whatever it was connected to, it's not anymore. Daniel nodded. Then we're done. Command agrees, no follow-up mission, no retrieval. Merk leaned in from the doorway. They're calling it a sterilization event. Daniel looked at the Roman 4 drip. For them or for us? Komarov didn't answer. Later that night, Daniel stood in the observation deck again. The earth below was half-shadowed, the curve of Africa just visible along the horizon. He didn't feel victory. But he felt something close to quiet. And for the first time since Dayton, that was enough.